You are bleeding out in public, and you are calling it networking. You are pouring your soul into conversations that do not matter, explaining your vision to people who are committed to misunderstanding you, and then wondering why you are so utterly exhausted. You think that if you just speak a little louder, if you just justify your choices one more time, if you just prove your worth to the room, they will finally see you. But here is the brutal, unvarnished truth. They do not see you. They are only watching you perform your own desperation. Think about that. Every time you open your mouth to defend your path, you are handing away your power. Every time you seek validation from those who have not walked a single mile in your shoes, you are diluting your purpose. You are trading your sacred, quiet focus for cheap, fleeting applause. There is a profound psychological power in withholding your validation. There is an unstoppable momentum that is born only when you stop explaining and start executing. When you choose to walk alone, you are not isolating yourself. You are protecting your energy. You are calibrating your mind. You are stepping into the arena of the unbothered. Your silence becomes your power. Let me take you back to the beginning. Before the success, before the clarity, before the unbothered execution, there is always an origin story rooted in the struggle. Picture a young woman stepping onto a massive, intimidating global stage. She has crossed oceans to be here. She has left behind everything familiar. The industry she is entering is ruthless, cynical, and deeply entrenched in its own biases. The doors are heavy. The whispers in the hallways are sharp. They look at her and see a category, not a creator. They see an accent, a background, a stereotype. So, what does she do? She does what all of us do when we feel threatened. She tries to explain. She sits in meetings and over-explains her vision. She sends long, desperate emails justifying her creative choices. She smiles through the condescension and tries to win them over with her likability. She chases their approval, believing that if she can just make them understand her, they will give her the keys to the kingdom. Do you see yourself in her? Because this is exactly what you are doing. You are bleeding out in public. You are letting the noise of the crowd dictate the rhythm of your heartbeat. The emotional drain of overgiving is not just a metaphor. It is a physiological reality. When you constantly seek validation, your nervous system is locked in a state of chronic fight or flight. Your cortisol spikes every time a message goes unanswered. Your chest tightens when someone questions your commitment. You are literally aging yourself through the stress of trying to be understood by people who do not possess the capacity to understand you. So let me tell you something. The cost of chasing is your identity. When you spend all your time molding yourself to fit into the narrow expectations of others, you forget who you actually are. You start to believe their doubts. You internalize their limitations. The struggle stops being about achieving your goal and becomes about proving you deserve to be in the room. And the most tragic part? It never works. Validation given by others is a loan, and they can call it in at any time. When your confidence is built on their applause, your foundation is made of sand. The moment the crowd turns, the moment the algorithm changes, the moment the trend shifts, you are left with nothing. You are left standing in the wreckage of your own over-explained life, wondering where your vision went. I'll say it again. You cannot negotiate your worth. You cannot argue your way into respect. You cannot explain your way into greatness. Think about the hours you have lost this week alone. Hours spent crafting the perfect response to a critic. Hours spent rehearsing arguments in the shower for a conversation that will never happen. Hours spent scrolling through the curated lives of others, feeling a creeping fear of wasted potential, wondering if you are falling behind. That time is gone. It is non-renewable. You are spending the only currency you actually have, your time, on a bankrupt investment. But here's the thing, there is a breaking point. There is a moment in every great journey where the pain of staying the same finally exceeds the pain of changing. For the young woman on that global stage, that moment came on a Tuesday. She was sitting in a glass-walled boardroom, listening to an executive dismiss her life's work as a niche interest. She opened her mouth to explain. She took a breath to defend her purpose. And then she stopped. She looked at the executive. She looked at the empty coffee cups. She looked at her own hands, trembling slightly from the exhaustion of constant performance. And she realized the ultimate truth. Her explaining was not convincing them, it was only draining her. She closed her mouth. She nodded once. She stood up, gathered her notes, and walked out. She didn't quit. She didn't fail forward in that moment. She just stopped failing in the wrong direction. She went back to her small, quiet apartment. She locked the door. And for the first time in months, she didn't say a word. She just worked. That is the pivot. That is the moment you stop chasing and start building. That is the moment you realize that the crowd's opinion is just noise, and your execution is the only signal that matters. You have to be brave enough to be misunderstood. You have to have the courage to let them think you are arrogant or quiet or aloof while you quietly lay the bricks of your empire. You have to accept that walking alone is the toll you pay for walking ahead. Remember this, the cost of chasing is your soul, the cost of explaining is your energy, the cost of seeking validation is your freedom. Pay that price any longer and you will go bankrupt. Your silence becomes your power. Now, we have established the cost. We have felt the pain of the chase, but knowing the problem does not solve the problem. You need a mechanism, you need a framework, you need to understand the mechanics of strategic silence. Here's what most people don't understand. They think silence is the absence of sound. They think it is passive. They think it is weakness, hiding, or surrender. Let me be clear. Strategic silence is not passive. It is the most aggressive, calculated form of control you can wield. It is the active calibration of your energy. It is the deliberate withholding of your reactions to maintain your power. When you are silent, you are not hiding. You are observing. You are gathering data. You are letting the other person reveal their hand while you keep yours hidden. To master this, you must adopt 3 actionable rules. These are not suggestions. These are the laws of unbothered execution. Rule number 1, the calibration of withholding. This is about emotional discipline. When someone challenges you, when the market crashes, when the critics swarm, your immediate biological urge is to react, to defend, to strike back. You must override that urge. You must withhold your immediate reaction. When you react instantly, you are giving the external world control over your internal state. You are letting them push your buttons. Strategic silence means you pause. You create a gap between the stimulus and your response. In that gap, you find your power. Think about the young woman in the boardroom. When the executive dismissed her, her instinct was to fight. But she withheld her reaction. She calibrated her response. By saying nothing, she forced the executive to sit in the discomfort of his own rudeness. She didn't give him the satisfaction of her anger. She starved him of her energy. You must do the same. When they provoke you, give them nothing. When they doubt you, give them nothing. Let your results be the only noise you make. The calibration of withholding is about realizing that your attention is a finite resource and you will no longer spend it on people who do not deserve it. Rule number 2, the architecture of the unbothered mind. This is about environmental and psychological design. You cannot maintain strategic silence if your environment is constantly screaming for your attention. You have to build an architecture that protects your focus. This means ruthless elimination. It means turning off the notifications. It means unfollowing the accounts that trigger your insecurity. It means saying no to the meetings that do not serve your vision. It means creating physical and digital boundaries that keep the noise out. Not only that, but you must also architect your internal mind. You have to train your brain to sit in the discomfort of silence. Most people are terrified of silence because silence forces them to confront their own thoughts. They fill every quiet moment with podcasts, music, scrolling, and chatter. You must retrain yourself. Sit in a room with no input, just you and your thoughts. Let the boredom wash over you. Let the anxiety surface. Do not run from them, observe them. When you master the architecture of the unbothered mind, you become immune to the chaos around you. You become the eye of the storm. Rule number 3, the economy of words. This is the final pillar. You must treat your words like gold. When you speak too much, you dilute your message. You become background noise. When you speak sparingly, every word carries weight. People lean in when you speak because they know you are not just filling the air. The economy of words means you speak only to build, never to defend. You speak only to add value, never to prove your worth. You speak only when your words are better than the silence. Let's go back to our story. The young woman locked herself in her apartment. She stopped going to the networking events. She stopped trying to charm the producers. She embraced the economy of words. When she did speak in meetings, she spoke for 30 seconds. She stated her vision, she stated her terms, and then she stopped. The silence that followed was deafening. The executives, used to her over-explaining, were thrown off balance. They started bidding against each other just to fill the quiet. She didn't lower her price. She didn't justify her value. She just sat in the silence and let them come to her. That's the difference. When you chase, you lower your value. When you are silent, the market assigns you a premium. You see, strategic silence is not about becoming a monk. It is about becoming a sniper. It is about conserving your energy for the one shot that matters. It is about understanding that the lion does not lose sleep over the opinion of the sheep. The lion walks alone, not because it hates the sheep, but because it knows its own nature. You must adopt this nature. You must walk alone. You must let them call you distant. You must let them say you have changed, because you have changed. You have stopped playing their game and you have started playing your own. Your silence becomes your power. We have the mechanics, we have the rules. But mechanics without movement is just theory. You can know all the rules of silence, but if you do not execute, you are just quietly wasting your life. This brings us to the discipline of unbothered execution. This is where the identity transformation truly happens. This is where you stop fixing yourself and start becoming yourself. Execution in silence is not just about working hard. It is about working with a sacred commitment. It is about treating your daily habits as a religious ritual. When you close the door and shut out the noise, what you do in the dark defines who you are in the light. Let me be clear. Unbothered execution requires a compounding consistency. It is not about one massive heroic effort. It is about the boring, unsexy, repetitive daily grind. It is waking up at 4 a.m. when the world is asleep and your bed is warm. It is doing the deep work when your brain begs you to check your phone. It is putting in the reps when there is no applause, no validation, and no immediate reward. This is where the fear of wasted potential must be weaponized. You must look in the mirror and realize that you are dying. Every second that ticks by is a second you will never get back. The clock is ticking toward your final breath. Are you going to spend those remaining seconds explaining yourself to people who do not care? Or are you going to spend them building something that outlives you? Mortality is the ultimate filter. When you truly internalize that your time is non-renewable, the noise of the world loses its power. The opinions of strangers become irrelevant. The only thing that matters is the work. The only thing that matters is the legacy. Work ethic as a sacred sacrifice. That is how you must view it. You are sacrificing the cheap dopamine of social media for the deep, enduring satisfaction of mastery. You are sacrificing the comfort of the crowd for the glory of the summit. It is a sacrifice, and it will hurt. There will be days when the loneliness feels heavy. There will be nights when you question if the struggle is worth it. But here's the thing. That pain is the price of admission. You cannot have the extraordinary without sacrificing the ordinary. You must fall forward. You must embrace the struggle. You must understand that the darkest moment is always right before your finest hour. When you execute in silence, you build an irreversible momentum. You start to compound your efforts. Day 1 looks like nothing. Day 10 looks like nothing. Day 100 looks like nothing. But day 1000 looks like a miracle to the outside world. They call it luck. They call it an overnight success. They say the impossible turned possible. But you know the truth. You know it was just the compounding power of daily discipline. You know it was the thousands of hours of unbothered execution in the quiet. And this is where gratitude and purpose-driven faith come into play. Because you cannot sustain this level of discipline on willpower alone. Willpower is a battery, it drains. Faith is a generator, it renews. You must have faith in your vision. You must believe in your purpose with a religious fervor. And you must practice gratitude not just for the successes, but for the struggle. Be grateful for the doubt because it forces you to work harder. Be grateful for the loneliness because it gives you the space to think. Be grateful for the closed doors because they force you to build your own house. Gratitude is the fuel that keeps the engine running when the road gets steep. It shifts your mindset from why is this happening to me to what is this trying to teach me. Let's return to our young woman. She is deep in the execution phase now. Months have passed. She is working 18-hour days. She is rewriting scripts, studying the greats, refining her craft in total isolation. Her phone is off. Her door is locked. She is entirely unbothered by the industry gossip, the trending topics, the fleeting dramas. She is failing forward. She is taking risks in the quiet. She is getting back up every time she hits a wall. She is working hard, dreaming big, and keeping going when her body and mind beg her to stop. She is not just acting anymore. She is becoming. Her identity is shifting from someone who wants to be seen to someone who cannot be ignored. She is earning it. She is claiming it. She is standing her ground in the face of immense pressure. And then the call comes. The very executive who dismissed her months ago is on the phone. The project he thought was a niche interest has suddenly become the most sought-after property in the industry, driven by a shift in the cultural zeitgeist. He wants her. He needs her. She doesn't gloat. She doesn't say, "I told you so." She doesn't explain how she knew all along. She just gives him her rate, a rate that is triple what he offered her before. He hesitates. He tries to negotiate. She stays silent. He caves. She never gave up. She never let the noise distract her from the signal. She walked alone and she became strong. You must do the same. You must commit to the unbothered execution. You must change the world not by shouting about it, but by quietly building it. You must be brave enough to disappear for a while. You must be willing to let them forget your name, so that when you return, they have no choice but to remember your impact. Remember this, the world does not reward the loudest person in the room. The world rewards the person who did the work while everyone else was talking. Your silence becomes your power. We are at the end of the beginning. You have heard the cost. You have learned the mechanics. You have witnessed the execution. Now it is time to integrate. It is time to make this your reality. Listen. You are standing at a crossroads. Behind you is the life you have been living. The life of over-explaining. The life of chasing validation. The life of bleeding out in public, trying to convince the world that you matter. That life is heavy. It is exhausting. It is a slow death by 1,000 cuts. Ahead of you is the path of strategic silence. It is a narrow path. It is lonely, it is steep, but it leads to the summit. It leads to a life of unbothered execution, where your word is your bond, your work is your voice, and your results are your only argument. You have to make a choice. And you have to make it right now. You cannot straddle the fence. You cannot be a little bit silent and a little bit loud. You cannot be a little bit disciplined and a little bit distracted. You must go all in. You must embrace the identity of the lone walker. Think about the legacy you want to leave. When you are gone, when your time on this earth is done, they will not remember the clever things you said on the internet. They will not remember the arguments you won in the comments section. They will not remember how hard you tried to explain yourself. They will remember what you built. They will remember the impact you made. They will remember the quiet, relentless force of execution. So let me tell you something. Do not ring the bell. Do not give up when it gets hard. Do not let the darkness convince you that the light is gone. The struggle is the forge. The silence is the hammer. And you are the steel. You must take risks. You must be brave. You must stand your ground when the world tells you to shrink. You must believe in your vision with an unshakable faith. You must work hard, dream big, and never give up. When you hit the darkest moment, remember that it is just the canvas for your finest hour. When you fail, fail forward. When you fall, get back up. Keep going, keep building, keep walking. The young woman we talked about, she didn't just get the role. She redefined the industry. She didn't just change her life. She changed the world for those who came after her. She proved that the impossible turned possible is just a matter of time, discipline, and silence. She walked alone, and she became unstoppable. Now it is your turn. The noise is waiting for you. The distractions are calling your name. The urge to explain, to justify, to seek approval is pulling at your sleeves. Resist it. Pull your energy back into your core. Lock the door. Shut out the noise. Look at your vision. Look at your goal. Look at your purpose. And get to work. Close your mouth. Open your hands. Build in the quiet.